The government has confiscated gold once before. Can they do it again, and would they?
Gold confiscation doesn't come into play until it's a much higher price. Now, back in the 30s, while the gold price was fixed, the actual value of gold was much higher. Where are you with gold? Everyone says that's dumb. So there's no need for the government to demonize gold because most people have no idea where you'd even buy it. Your wealth is not about trading. Your wealth is about, it's a physical representation of your hard effort and your thinking and your abilities and all the things that you've worked for. It's the war against your wealth. And
the government has confiscated gold once before. Can they do it again, and would they? I want to talk about Ray Dalio's recent LinkedIn posts about possible gold confiscation. I'm just going to read his quote here. He said, policymakers who are short of money will raise taxes and won't like these capital movements out of debt assets and into other storehold of wealth assets and other tax domains, so they could very well impose prohibitions against capital movements to other assets, example, gold, Bitcoin, etc. What's he referring to exactly? Could this happen?
Absolutely, it always happens. Capital controls can't move money across borders. I mean, you saw in Ukraine several years ago, they had Bitcoin ATMs. So I saw them when I was there. People were putting the hryvnia into the Bitcoin ATM and then going to other countries to withdraw it. They promptly stopped this. I mean, look, you don't have control of a society if the money's flying out of the borders and you can't tell where it's going to go, because money always flows to a friendly place. Now, what Dalio's talking about, I feel like it's not really fair for him to put these types of posts out there, because it scares people and it doesn't give them proper context. In my book, chapter 4 of my book, we talk about the 1930s confiscation. I tell a very personal story about my great-grandmother who had a cigar box full of coins, and she gave them to the bank for $21, and then the government, revalued gold at $35. And I always said to my grandfather, well, was she a sellout? I mean, I always thought she was a great person. Why did she do this? And my grandfather said, you need to understand that every single newspaper, every single day had headlines about how the government needed the gold. FDR said that we needed the gold. We were going to be under attack. Our treasury was in jeopardy. And if you had kept this, I mean, you would have to have been like a real anarchist to do this. No one would have done this that was a member of kind of like regular society. And so when I had that context, I said, well, look, this is kind of like watching the television every day and seeing the mainstream narrative, because we live in a narrative-driven market. I mean, this is not the type of market that we grew up in. This is a narrative-driven market. So the narrative is set and the narrative is reinforced. Now, why are we painting that picture for people going back? Okay, so look at what's happening today. Where's everyone putting their money? They're putting their money into Bitcoin. It's all the rage. You've got, what, $1.5 trillion worth of Bitcoin in the world. And everyone says, this is how we'll, and Dalio mentions Bitcoin, but people say, this is how we'll protect our money from government seizure. But the chapter 17 of my book explains how Bitcoin was created, which no one ever talks about, and how the government's going to have FedCoin. The chapter's called FedCoin. It's like FedCoin will be the central bank digital currency, and all the transactions that have ever occurred on the Bitcoin blockchain are part of the record. No one ever understands that. That's digital wealth storage that's held on a public blockchain. But David, this right here is not digital wealth storage, okay? This is about $7,500 worth of gold right here in my hand. This is as analog as it gets, okay? It's about as basic, and even a house fire can't destroy it. If someone came barging into my office with a gun, maybe they could, right? So when you look at what's going to be confiscated, the government's, there's no need to go after gold at this moment because nobody wants gold. I mean, if you're watching this video, I hate to tell you, but you're in the minority, which means you're early, okay? When Bitcoin was $10, the people that were talking about it, including myself, I was writing a blog at the time, we talked about it. It was very interesting. We weren't making an investment case. We were just saying, this is happening. And we were in the minority. People said, well, that's very dumb. Well, now everyone says that's brilliant. So where are you with gold? Everyone says that's dumb. So there's no need for the government to demonize gold because most people have no idea where you'd even buy it.
Okay, but E.B., explain what happened in the 30s with your grandparents now. Is confiscation the right term to use? They didn't really confiscate it per se, right? They just exchanged it with with money. They gave them dollars for it.
So that's right. So everyone gets this idea that people are going to raid your house and look for your gold. It's not necessary. All you have to do is limit the ability to transact gold in the legal market. And then you assess an excise tax. So I'm just going to give you a hypothetical. So gold takes off and it goes much higher than it is today. And everyone's panicking because there's Fed coin and all your transactions are taxed and there's no way to move money. And you have a social credit score. And if your social credit score is too low, then your Fed coin wallet won't work at the amusement park because you've been a bad boy and you've been saying things against the government. So now your credit score is down and you can't spend. I want you to picture this world. Okay, so
yeah, it's already happening in China, by the way. That's exactly what's
already happening. It's not sci-fi. This is already happening. Facebook, all these things are all tracked all the time, and your phone knows where you are all the time. It's listening to you. So if you think this is crazy, then you're crazy. Okay, so I want you to picture this, and then you have this ounce of gold, which has been declared an asset for only subversives, and it's something that you absolutely cannot have. And then you try to sell it. Well, how do you sell it? Because you can't sell it anymore because there's an excise tax. So they say, go ahead and sell it, and it's a 90% tax. Okay, well, I'll sell it on the black market. Well, that becomes very dangerous. Because remember, they don't need to come and kick in your door. You just limit someone's ability to sell it. I mean, think about if you had $100,000 in cash. You essentially, it's very difficult to get rid of that, to spend it, because everywhere if you go into a department store and try to buy $1,000 worth of expensive clothing, they have to call over a manager and ask you where you got the cash and fill out one of those FinCEN reports to report suspicious activity. You get where I'm saying. I mean, so when you think about confiscation, stop thinking about a Jason Bourne movie or something. I mean, it's just limiting the ability to transact. And so then you have to say to yourself, am I buying the gold to transact? No, the subtitle of my book, pictured right behind me there, is called The War Against Your Wealth. So your wealth is not about trading. Your wealth is it's a physical representation of your hard effort and your thinking and your abilities and all the things that you've worked for. It's the war against your wealth and how to win it. That's where people's heads need to be oriented.